How's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of the Boruto anime. Today we're going to be covering episode 170, in which Boruto and Sarada are still training hard. And Sakura is getting a little worried about her daughter, and maybe that she's pushing herself a little bit too far. And other interesting things happen in this episode. So, if you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe, especially if you're new to the channel, as I've been covering the car actuation arc since it began, and I will continue to do so. Anyways, let's get on to that review, shall we? So let's start with Boruto's focus in this episode. So, as with the previous episodes, Boruto's training, and there's this boulder that he just keeps going up against, and he just can't destroy it no matter what he does. He keeps denting it, but he just can't destroy it, and that's when Shikadai shows up. They have a little bit of a conversation. And Shikadai comes to the conclusion that the reason why Boruto is doing all this training is because he wants to take on Deepa, in which Shikadai is having none of that. Because Deepa is on another level. He's like, yeah, if you're going to try to do something like that again, go off and face off against this guy, yeah, I'm going to stop you, no matter what. But Boruto retorts by saying, hey, the reason why I'm doing all this training is because I realize that I'm inexperienced and I'm not strong enough. This guy Deepa took me out like it was nothing. So I'm doing all this training so I can improve myself, so that if I face somebody like him in the future, I'll be able to take them on. And Shikadai realizes what Boruto is saying, and that's when he decides to help him out with his training, and invites Inogen and Chocho to help out. And it's basically target practice, but Boruto struggles quite a bit. He's still trying to exert more chakra. He tries to create a bigger Rasengan, and it just doesn't work. So after training is done for the day, there's a pretty interesting scene where Boruto and Shikadai are hanging out at a campfire, which are talking, and Boruto is like, man, I just don't know what to do. I guess I'm going to have to try the giant Rasengan again. Shikadai's like, yeah, you were already told that you can't do that, so that's out of the question. So they're talking about durability. And this is when an interesting thing comes up, in which Shikadai's over here, he's like, durability, huh? It's strange when you think about it. He's looking at the campfire. The composition of coal and diamonds are the same, and yet their durability is totally different. And Boruto, pipes back, is something different in their molecular structure. And Shikadai is like applying extraordinary heat and pressure to carbon, and coal results in super hard diamonds. And basically, when he tells us the Boruto comes to the realization of what Kakashi was saying about moving mountains, and Boruto realizes what he needs to do. So the next day, Inogen and Chocho show up to help Shikadai train Boruto, in which, Boruto totally took out that boulder finally. Did it off screen, but he did it. He took out that boulder. So, good job, Boruto. So, Boruto heads over to Senju Park and finds Kakashi and is like, hey, I actually did it. I destroyed that boulder. In the meantime, Kakashi actually met up with Ibiki to arrange a training partner for Boruto, or at least to see the results of his training. So, they head off to this facility that's managed by the Hidden Leaf Police. And this was kind of a shock. I was not expecting this, but the person that Boruto is going to be going up against to see the results of his training is none other than Shojoji. Yes, Shojoji, the leader of the Mujita Bandits. I was not expecting this guy to return, I'm not going to lie. So I'm actually pretty happy that the anime is doing this, so I'm actually pretty hyped for the rematch between Boruto and Shojoji in the next episode. So on the Sarada / Sakura's focus in this episode, because Sakura actually gets quite a bit of screen time in this episode that's actually pretty interesting. So we'll start with Sarada first, because she's continuing her training, and it seems like the training has got a little bit more intense, because instead of basically dots shooting off at her, kunai are shooting off at her. So like one wrong move and you're dead, Sarada. But she does a pretty good job avoiding all these kunai, but she ends up getting cut by one of them. And so she realizes she wants to get to a point where she's not even getting hit by any of them. So she has a conversation with her dad. They take a little bit of a break, which she asks about the Mangekyo Sharingan. He's like, yeah, we're not going to talk about that today. And Sakura overhears that, and she's super worried about Sarada pushing herself, because she just got out of the hospital, and she's super worried, but it eventually annoys Sarada, and she ends up running off. And Sakura admittedly doesn't want her to know about the Mangekyo Sharingan, because she's afraid that someday something's going to happen that causes Sarada to awaken the Mangekyo, because tragedy has to befall the Uchiha before something like that happens. So Sakura is worried about that. And the one thing in the episode that's interesting is that Hinata is actually giving Boruto lunch as he's been doing all his training, as he's not currently living at home, he's out camping. So she's on her way back, and she notices that she basically overhears the conversation that's going on between Sakura and Sarada and Sasuke. So she's feeling a little bad for Sakura. So later in the episode when Sarada's sleeping, Hinata and Ino show up and invite Sakura out to, a girls' night out. So they're hanging out. They're drunk actually, at least Sakura and Ino are, and Sakura's worried about Sarada because of what happened and just seeing the state that she was in when she came back after losing her battle with Deepa. And Ino has to remind her that we're mothers, but we're also shinobi, so we got to be prepared for something like this to happen. So the only thing we can do is help them improve themselves so that, hey, when they go out there, they're best prepared and best fit for these situations. Sakura realizes that she's being a little overproductive. And I like this moment. She even talks about, hey, remember back in the day? Remember how determined you were to get stronger? Remember that? I thought that was actually a pretty cool callback. I was actually hoping that maybe they could do a flashback scene to back from part 1. That actually would have been kind of needed here. And I would have liked to see it again, but yeah, I actually thought that was pretty cool. So, I'm not the biggest Ino fan, but she was actually pretty cool in this episode, so I'll give her that. So, yeah, I actually really like this scene. So, good job, Hinata, for setting this all up, even though you didn't really say much in this episode. So, overall, I thought this was a decent episode. It's not a bad episode by any means, but it's not the best episode of Boruto. But I found it to be pretty decent. So what I really liked in this episode was that Boruto is progressing pretty well. I know a lot of people don't like his character, but I'm actually really liking him lately, especially right now, because he's realizing his weaknesses and he's working to overcome them. I mean, I love that. I like it when main characters have an issue and they have to overcome it somehow. And Boruto's shown his genius because he's figuring things out pretty quickly. But the surprise here is that I was not expecting Chijoji to show back up in the anime. I figured because, with the manga, he's not relevant, and Ujina Bandits was way back when, and he's already in jail, I figured this guy was never going to show up again. But to my surprise, the anime has brought him back, and I like what they're doing because when Boruto went up against Chijoji, he needed assistance to beat this guy, and he honestly really didn't win. It was basically Mitsuki and Sarada that took him out at the end. So Boruto has to show the results of his training and that he can actually face up against this guy. So Boruto has to beat this guy alone. So I'm going to be very interested to see how well he does in the next episode against them. I will say the one downside I do have to this episode is Sarada's screen time. Yeah, it feels like Boruto has already progressed further than Sarada has. And don't get me wrong, Sarada is training a lot and she is pushing herself. But yeah, her screen time was much less in this episode compared to Boruto. And I get that the focus shifted to her mother and her being worried about her daughter. But, I will say I did really like that scene. But unfortunately, it did take away from Sarada's screen time. So I'm hoping in the next episode or two, we get to see more of her training. Because, Boruto's already progressed. It feels like he's progressed a lot further. He's got his new Rasengan. He destroyed that boulder. And now he's showing the results of his training in the next episode, whereas Sarada is still training her Sharingan. I do think that she will unlock Tsutomu at some point during this arc, so look forward to that, but I'm hoping maybe in the next few episodes we get more Sarada focus. So that's all I got for this video. So overall, a pretty decent episode. I'd say it's good enough for a 6.5 out of 10. So guys out there, did you love this episode? Did you hate it? Post your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later. You all stay safe out there, and have a great day or night wherever you're at. Peace.